Deep conversations with the right people are priceless, and ideas are formed in the crucible of authentic, connected, and sometimes controversial conversations. No ideas are off the table because why would they be? Join us on Inquisitive Souls as we lead with curiosity, empathy, and a massive heaping of juvenile humor. Join us on this learning journey. Well, I am talking to you straight from Cleveland, which I think might have been called a mistake by the lake at one point, but I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that was Cleveland or Cincinnati. My U.S. geography is terrible. Or not terrible, but in this particular case, terrible. Anywho, I wanted to kind of reflect on the weekend that I just had and, I don't know, put it into some kind of context that maybe makes it relevant for what all of us will face at some point in our life, which is the death of a parent. And, sorry, I got a scratchy throat. Let me grab a water. So I don't know if I must have talked about this. I'm sure I've talked about this, but Tanya's mother is dying. She has stage 4 bowel cancer, and she really has very little time left. I mean, she's really not eating anymore, and it's, her time, her days are numbered. Let's put it that way. And this experience has been pretty powerful in a whole hell of a lot of ways. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is it's brought the family closer together. I witnessed that this weekend where we went up for Canadian Thanksgiving and it was just a very different energy. And, in some ways it was somber to a certain extent, but in another way there was a level of closeness that I felt like permeated every interaction. It was just, the energy was different. And it was really, really nice. And I think it's partially because when something like this happens, there's reason to maybe step back and think and recognize that we're all in this together. Like in a situation like this, it's time for the family to be there for one another in whatever that means for whoever it means, right? Everybody has a different set of needs. I know for me, Tanya and I have been together for, quite a while now. And just lately, and I don't know if this is a common thing with in-laws or how that works. It must be pretty normal. But I feel fully part of her family now. And I didn't before. Like, I felt like I cared about everybody, but it's a very different feeling now. I feel like, humans have this way of categorizing people as either us or them. And I think that may be what I was doing. And maybe that's what they were doing too. But anyways, it feels like that's no longer the case, and that feels really good to me. And, I got the chance to spend some time with Tanya's mom over the weekend. I drove her from their place over to her sister's place where we're having Thanksgiving. And I got the chance to talk to her. And what could very well be the last time, which is a fucked up thing to think about. And it was really, really nice. We only probably had 10, 15 minutes together, probably 10 minutes together. And yeah, we just talked about, I asked her what her headspace is like and she said it's good, in the sense that she's accepted things. Honestly, she's ready to die. She's spiritually ready to die. She's at the point where it's just, there's very few good days, and she's in a lot of pain and a lot of vomiting and stuff like that. So, I know what it's like for me when I get sick and I think, oh my God, I could not live like this. And that's for like 2 days. Now, granted, that's because I'm a man and every single, virus I get, it becomes full on man flu. But regardless, I mean, and I'm not trying to make light of it. I mean, literally, that's how I felt sometimes after 2 days of just feeling like total shit. So I can only imagine what it must be like to be not only living with this in this kind of condition, but knowing it's not going to get better, right? There's only one direction it's going to go. And yeah. Anyway, so I had the chance to ask her about that, and she said that she thinks she's accepted it, and that normally her headspace is relatively good, all things considered. And we had a chance. Their family's not very talkative. Either's mine, really. I mean, but I just said a few things to her about her relationship with Tanya and the influence she's had on her and that, and it was very touching. And it was, I'm glad I said it. I was wondering if saying it, I don't know. Like, I was wondering if saying it was speaking out of turn in a way. So I really just, like, I don't know, telling something about how Tanya's feeling without her permission or something is it's not that I felt that way. It was more like I was wondering if that's something I should be saying. But ultimately what I ended up saying, I just made sure to say it was, I'm speaking for myself and obviously from my own perspective. So, but it was a very touching, beautiful moment. And it feels, I don't want to say it feels, I mean, it doesn't feel good to have shared that moment. It just felt like the moment we shared right then was the moment we were meant to share. I guess is probably how I would say that. And, but then, I don't know, like watching Tanya and her sister, I don't want to say they're very matter of fact about it, because that's not the case. And they both have very different personalities and very different viewpoints. And I don't want to get all into it because I don't know, part of me, I don't want to invade anybody's privacy either, but let's just suffice it to say that they've accepted what's happening in their own way. And, maybe I'll speak for Tanya a little bit, because I think I've talked about this, but I think one of the things that's been very liberating for her is that she recognizes that this is her mother's journey and the outcome is out of her control. And that's a big thing to acknowledge, right? Because I think there's so much, if you look at life, we are one with the universe. And if you look at all of the things that go on in the universe, I mean, basically everything is outside of our control except the tiniest fraction, of our sphere of influence. And so she's recognized that a long time ago, which I think has been really good. I also feel like she does not, and this is through some real help with our neighbors and lots of conversations together and all that stuff. But she recognizes that, or not recognizes, but she doesn't feel attached to the idea that she's supposed to be acting or feeling a certain way. Like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be racked with grief, or in this moment, I'm supposed to be strong. And I can't remember if I've already talked about this, but this is something I did with Cindy, was always fucking feeling like I was supposed to be feeling another way than I actually was feeling. And it just made it more complicated and difficult. So I think that's been really helpful for her, and a real insight for me too, actually. And then maybe lastly, there's no unresolved shit. Like, her parents can see that their kids are happy, that they're in good marriages. They've got kids, their lives are unfolding. Like, in my own personal situation, I'll say this because I know my brother doesn't fucking ever listen to this podcast. But let's just put it this way. In my situation, if the roles reversed and my mother was in Tanya's mother's situation, she'd be very worried, not only about my brother, but about his wife and grandkids. And I'll just leave it at that. But let's say there's some, ongoing shit there that would cause my mom to be, that would really add to the emotional burden I think that she was feeling. And so there's none of that here, which I think is obviously a huge gift. Not only a gift in the perspective, like from the sense of, the life that they've lived, but also that the sort of legacy that she's leaving behind. And so it's, yeah, it was a really connecting, somber, not really somber. I don't know what the right word is really. I mean, it was, I walked out of there. I was kind of dreading the weekend a little bit. Dreading is probably too strong a word, but it was just very different than what I imagined. And I think that seeing this for me, like obviously you never know what's going to happen to you. You never know what's going to happen to your parents. Fuck, we could all be dead. We could all die tomorrow. I mean, obviously, but I think seeing Judy go through this and Tanya's reaction to it, and especially like the conversations that we've had about it, it's really made me something. And I'm not totally sure what that something is, but it's really, I think, made me less fearful of the death of my parents, which is, they're 72 and almost 70. Like it could be 30 years. It could be, well, obviously it could be tomorrow. Right. But, it's maybe less fearful about that, but I also think it's made me not only less fearful of my own death, but I think more gain clarity on the type of death that I want to have. Like other than, unless I get run over by a truck and don't see it coming. But I mean, I don't want to fear death. I want to embrace it as part of the cycle of life and approach it with the sense of peace that comes from being fully self-aware and enlightened and satisfied about the life that I've lived and the way that I've lived it and the legacy I've left behind and all those things. And just to shuffle off this mortal coil at the appointed time with a full heart. And that's it. And I think a lot of the work that I'm doing as it relates to, learning more about Zen and looking inward and all of those kind of things. I mean, I think that's a path for me to be able to do that. It's not necessarily the end goal. I mean, the goal is to fully experience every moment, but I think that who the fuck knows actually, but that's what I want anyways. And I feel like the work that I'm doing right now is going to be helpful in helping me create that. So yeah, that's it. It's just a episode on death. I'll make more of these probably because as her time ends on this earth and she moves to whatever lies, waiting for her afterwards. I want to continue to talk about it because I don't want to glorify it. But I also don't want to hide it. And I want to share what I'm learning because it's been a really pretty powerful, experience for me, more so than I thought it would be. So that is it. Thanksgiving, death and dying. See you next time.